Bonsoir.
Bonsoir, Jeanne.
Bonsoir. Contente de vous rencontrer.
Asseyez-vous, s'il vous plaît. Welcome to the Prime Minister's office.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I'm very happy to be here. So right off the bat, I have three things to ask you.
Sure.
We're going to start with the first one right now. That is, at your victory speech, you talked about Canada as being inclusive in terms of its multiculturalism and diversity. But for the past decades, what I've noticed mostly is that we've seen a rise of racism, Islamophobia, exclusion, and othering, especially during the last election and during the unfortunate episode of les accommodements raisonnables in Quebec. Now, my question is, what is your definition of inclusive? Because I identify as Muslim. I'm a woman of color, and I feel like my voice is suppressed. No matter how much I try to pull here and there, I try to make sure that my voice is heard, and I think we all do. But I'm trying to understand where you're coming from by saying Canada is inclusive, because identity politics have been really central to the debate these days in the past few months, and it's been really hard to make your voice heard. And I feel like I'm being talked at, and not. I want to be part of that conversation, but I feel like I'm being talked at, frankly.
Well, I actually think that this last election was very instructive as to where Canadians felt and where Canadians were, because we did have a party very much using identity politics and politics of othering, of fear, of negative associations, similar to the Quebec Charte des Valeurs debate that was very much about creating schisms between communities and us versus them in all sorts of different ways. And as I said during the Charte des Valeurs challenges in the election, that I had faith in Quebecers. I got to demonstrate that I had faith in Canadians by rejecting those politics of divisiveness and by taking things on straight. And a great example of that was the C-24 debate, where people were saying, well, if you're convicted of terrorism, of course the government should be able to take away your Canadian citizenship. Yeah. And I actually stood there and said, no, government shouldn't have that power.
Absolutely, which
right?
I completely respect.
But that's a difficult argument to make in a time of fear and mistrust. And the fact that Canadians stood up and said, no, you're right, we have to defend people's rights, for me was a reassurance that we're on the right track.
I'm just going to stop you right there and take it back to, and I made a mistake earlier, I meant to say les Charte des Valeurs and not accommodements raisonnables.
Accommodement had its challenges as well.
What I was trying to say earlier is that in terms of concrete action, is there going to be some sort of educational plan to be able to do some sort of sensibilisation in schools to make sure that kids are exposed to certain issues, or also cohabiting with your neighbor who might not have the same culture but is just as Canadian as you in the end? Is there some sort of concrete plan for that?
Well, I think our schools are already doing...
I think it's necessary. It's more than necessary at this point.
I mean, our schools are already doing a pretty good job of that. You go to any high school in any city in the country and you're going to see a range of perspectives and backgrounds, and kids being kids and making friends across all sorts of different gender, ethnic, geographic, cultural lines. And that, for me, is something that we have to recognize and protect, because no kid should ever have to feel like they have to choose between their family's identity and their Canadian identity, that is fully compatible. Yes, we have challenges on that, but if I can point to one concrete thing, the welcoming of Syrian refugees had a few goals to it for me. The first one was very much so we could try and do something for a part of the world that needed the West to do more for it, for sure. Another part was to get the machinery of government doing something big right away. But the big piece of it for me was to remind Canadians of who we are, that we are a welcoming, open people that is willing to take in people and give them opportunities to succeed.
And you did great, so that's a really commendable initiative.
No, but it's a concrete indicator.
What I'm thinking about, which brings me to my next question, is in terms of integration. So we've seen Canada's been a very attractive country for a lot of high-skilled workers who come here, partially selected due to their employment and academic history, as an example, my parents. And then we end up coming here and there's no recognition, unfortunately, of their parcours, if you may. And it's kind of hard to come here with children and have one parent go out there and work perhaps minimum wage or very low wage. They're often either underemployed or unemployed and trying to make ends meet, while the other one is trying to get some sort of equivalency. And I just feel like this is the case. And you've worked at the Papineau riding. I've seen you. So you've been in touch with these people. You've talked to them. And it's really not easy.
No.
And it really does hit home.
Yeah.
It does hit home, because then these people end up just, looking down, working really hard. And they're hardworking people, right? They really do want to give back. Yeah. But what happens is that they realize that their life has come to their professional life maybe has come to an end. And so they put all their faith in their kids working in jobs that
they're way
hard.
Overqualified
Exactly.
for.
And it's hard to see your father or your mother or your cousin or your uncle go through that.
I was in my riding in the Petit Maghreb at one point, and I met a fellow who told me exactly, said, when you, as a country, accepted me here, I was a doctor in Algeria, and now I'm here in Canada, and I'm not even getting a path to be able to demonstrate my qualifications. So not only are you short one doctor, which I know you need here in Canada, but Algeria is short one doctor too, and Canada is responsible for a loss to the world of someone who could have helped. And how are you going to address that?
Facilitate that? Is there some sort of program or something, some bridge program to help with that? Because I think it's more than necessary right now. I think it hurts a lot more families than we think it does.
I agree, and it's something that I know. It's something that the federal government needs to work with the provinces on, because recognition of skills and labor and professional bodies is provincial, but the federal government can and will have a level of engagement to make sure that we're recognizing skills, that we're giving a path to be able to tool up and update one's skills so that you can practice in Canada, because we need to draw in people from around the world of all different skill levels to contribute to our economy and to contribute to the success of our country.
Yeah, and I think we're here and we're not here to leave, so might as well work together. I think that's really key. And one last question that I had for you. So I was pleasantly surprised to see your cabinet gender parity. That was very impressive. I was very happy about that. Very diverse as well, so that was really great. But I couldn't help but notice, and I don't think I'm the only one, is there is no representatives of the Black community who's been in Canada for hundreds of years and greatly contributed to this country. And there's no representative of the Black community, and I would like to ask you why.
Well, you know what? We have 30 people who represent a broad range of backgrounds. We have the first Muslim Canadian cabinet minister, a young woman, Miriam Monsef, who's 31.
From Afghanistan, right?
Yes, she came as a refugee from Afghanistan when she was 10. And actually, we have at least 2 parliamentary secretaries who are strong representatives of the Black community. We have Emmanuel Dubourg, who's Haitian from my neighboring riding of Bourassa. And Selena Chauvin, who's my own parliamentary secretary, the representative of the Prime Minister in the House, who's from Whitby, from the Black community. So there's always more to do. There's always communities that you're going to end up leaving out when you have to create a cabinet that is small but representative of the country.
Absolutely. It was just really out of curiosity, because it did stand out. I think quite a few people noticed, and not to take anything away from your cabinet, but I think quite a few people noticed. But you're right, there is a lot of work to do, and hopefully, I think we do have high hopes in your cabinet, in your government, but I think it's also a matter of managing expectations as well.
For sure. One of the first things that I've said is, look, if people have high expectations for me, I'll take it, because I have high expectations of Canadians. I know that there's a tremendous amount of work that we all have to do together to challenge ourselves, to create opportunities, to question our comfort levels and our openness to each other, particularly in a time where it's always easier to draw lines and push people away than welcome them into your community, to your home, to your safe circle. But Canada's a country that's always defined itself through shared values, not through any single identity. And I think that leaves us well positioned to continue to demonstrate diversity as a strength. Merci, Jeanne.
Merci à vous.
Quel plaisir, là. Merci.
De même, je vous remercie.
Merci.